Welcome back to the shooting channel. I'm going to speak about this beautiful piece of engineering, the Baikal. So Baikals can set you back about £500 for a brand new over and under, and about £550 for a brand new side by side. This one here is very old, well looked after, but just under £200 for this gun. The Baikals were originally made in a city just 2 hours from Moscow. This city actually survived the 1917 Russian Revolution, World War II and the Cold War. After the wars, they actually were sold below the price they were made for. So Baikal weren't actually making any money on these guns. The idea of that was to bring some foreign currency into the country, because after this period there tended to be there was a huge problem with the Russian economy. So in an effort to bring foreign currency into the country, they'd sold these guns for cheaper than they can afford. Well, cheaper than they made them for. Nowadays, Baikal are making a huge amount of rifles, pistols, air rifles and shotguns, both side by side and over and under. They also made a huge amount of military firearms for the, obviously, Russian military. If your budget isn't huge and you just need a gun to play about with, or if you've already got a huge amount of guns and a full gun cabinet or a one space left, then this gun may be for you. It's very, very cheap, so you can't expect anything particularly amazing. You have to expect certain things to go wrong. You can't expect some top quality steel like you'd see in maybe more expensive guns, but they do just keep going. They never really tend to break. They may have a couple problems here and there, but they never really tend to have anything major go wrong with them. It's because they are absolutely bulletproof. You can take this gun out on the back of a quad through the farm, drop it in a puddle, hit it against a tree by accident, and it will just survive. Well, I can't guarantee that, but I'm sure it can take a lot more than some older guns that you can find at this price range. So if you take a look at these barrels, I mean, they are definitely not what you'd expect from a more expensive gun, but for £150 you can't really go wrong. Then moving on to the wood. The wood does tend to resemble that of an IKEA desk. It's not particularly nice. The metal to wood finish isn't very good at all, really. The engraving is extremely basic, and you may have a problem trying to work out what birds are actually engraved into this gun because of the quality of the engraving being so low. When buying a gun like this, you always have to check that the gun fits, whether you're buying a £5,000 gun or a £150 gun. If you're planning on making this gun your regular shooter, you need to make sure it fits. You're never going to take this gun to the Olympic Games, and you probably will struggle quite a bit taking it into competitive clay shoots. This being because the stock is very short, the comb is very low. This was done by Baikal to fit the Russian customer. Russian customers tended to be shorter and a lot more stocky, so this fit them perfectly. But when it came to the European and a bit of the American market as well, it didn't tend to fit them very well. That being said, I would not recommend using one of these guns as your primary gun, just solely for the fact that it may be a lot less reliable than a standard clay pigeon shooting gun like a Browning 525 or a Silver Pigeon. But if you do just want a gun to play about with, then it's probably quite a good option, especially if you're a farmer and you're just going to chuck this in the back of the truck, chuck this on the back of a quad bike and take it out to control the grounds. So these Baikals are actually set out to shoot bottom barrel first. They do not have a selective safety catch at all, so you cannot choose what barrel you want to shoot with the safety catch. Instead, there's a process which is specific to Baikals called setting the trigger. So setting the trigger is when you push the trigger forwards. As standard, they will shoot bottom barrel first. If you push this trigger forward, you may be able to hear a little click, like that, and then you will now shoot top barrel. So this gun for this video probably isn't the best way to display Baikals in all their glory. This gun is very old and they've come a very long way since the 1980s. They're all now internally chromed barrels. They're available with fixed choke and multi-choke as opposed to the older guns which were only fixed choke. The wood on the newer guns is a lot nicer than what you can see here. It looks a lot less like a IKEA desk. The checkering is a lot better finished than you'll see on this gun here. The engraving is a lot more, I wouldn't like to say detailed, but it's a lot finer and you may actually be able to identify what birds are on the gun. So this definitely isn't one of the guns that you'd bring out to show the grandkids for its fine quality engraving and beautiful wood. It's more of one of those guns you just buy because they're cheap and you want a bit of fun, or you want a little gun that you wouldn't mind throwing around. That being said, what do you expect for a gun that's brand new is £500 and second hand you can get a gun of this quality for just over £100? Well, I say this quality, the quality isn't great, but for £150, can you really complain? I don't think there's many guns at this price range that can actually beat the Baikal's reliability and quality. So if you're not one to shoot grouse every weekend during the game season and you more prefer a hedgerow shoot now and again over a smart drive, then a Baikal is probably something you should take a look at. Then again, if you are someone to shoot grouse very often, or you are someone with a huge collection of guns and you would just like something a little bit fun with not a high price tag, which will rarely ever go wrong, then this is probably something you want to look at. So now I'm going to take it out onto the clay ground at Oxford Gun Company and we're going to see how it shoots. I'm sure I could probably tell you, and you guys could probably tell me how it shoots without me even shooting it and giving my opinion, but we're going to take it out nevertheless and see what I think of it. So I've come over to stand one with the Baikal at Oxford Gun Company, and I've come over to the stand because it's relatively easy and I just really want to see how the gun feels. I see what it recoils like, see what it handles like, and after I've shot on this stand I will then move over to something a little bit more difficult to see how it really holds up with a harder target. So I am using the Fiocchi TT21's 21 grams. With a gun like this, we'll get onto it a little bit later, but the recoil is quite a lot. There is no butt pad, no recoil pad whatsoever, so you do feel it quite a bit. as it doesn't fit me particularly well, I'm normally someone to have quite a long stock and quite a high comb, it does kick quite a bit. So that's it for that stand. We'll now move on to a slightly more difficult stand further down at the Oxford Gun Company on what they call the red course. There's a slightly more difficult one down there that we can use to really test the handling of this gun. So I've come on to stand 11 at Oxford Gun Company, and this is actually quite a difficult stand. There's a white clay coming straight off the top of the bank, coming down just on its side and literally just slowly coming down flat. I spoke to David about this one, and the place to hit that is about a foot off of the ground. So we're going to give it a go. Hopefully you can see the clays on camera, but I think this will be a good way of seeing how this gun handles with something a little bit more difficult. We also have a rabbit coming left to right, just across the same path as where you're going to hit that white lowering down clay. So let's give it a go. This comb, when I look down this comb, if I do my normal mount into the same position and come down, I'm looking right into the action, right into the top lever. Same as the stock length. If you look at how close my head is to that action, I'm very, very close. So it just further accentuates the fact that if you are buying a gun, you really need to make sure it fits. Obviously, when people buy guns like this, that's not the first thing they're looking at. They just want a cheap gun to have a bit of fun with. But when it does come to shooting more difficult targets, then I'm sure I'm not on most experienced of shooters, but I'm sure it'll be a lot more difficult with a gun that does not fit you as too short and too low compared to a gun that does fit you, and that's kind of self-explanatory. That being said, I've moved over to stand 10 at Oxford Gun Company, where there's a nice right to left followed by a left to right, and we're just going to see how we do on that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video on the Baikal over and under. I did a little bit of history of Baikal before we shot it and gave you a bit of my thoughts about the gun while shooting. But final thoughts, I think if you're going to buy a gun like this, you're not going to be buying it for the nice engraving and the nice wood and for it to shoot amazingly. You're going to be buying it for either a bit of fun or a cheap first gun just for a bit of hobby clay shooting, or just if you're a farmer or do a bit of rough shooting, it's probably something that you'd look at. After all, for £150, I don't think you can go very wrong. The wood to metal finish isn't perfect. It's had a lot of recoil. There is no nice recoil pad, and there isn't a selective trigger. If you want to shoot the top barrel first, then you have to do what I said previously in the video, set the trigger by pushing it forward and it will shoot just the top one. I hope you enjoyed that video. I understand it's a little bit different and I'm a different presenter to who you're normally used to, so let me know some feedback in the comment section below. And liking and subscribing really does help us. It pushes our videos to new people and kind of tries to expand the whole shooting community. So if you like the video, we'd really appreciate a thumbs up, and any feedback you've got, put it in the comment section below. And I'll see you on the next video.